Have you ever wondered what's wrong with you? Like, why are you still single? Maybe people have even asked you that. What's wrong with you? Or they've asked your parents or your friends, she's still single. What's wrong with her? Well, if you've ever wondered, what's wrong with me? Why am I still single? We're going to talk about that on this episode of One-Derful Life. Hi, I'm Mary Dittman. I'm an award-winning business professor on the collegiate level and the creator of College on Fleek and One-Derful Life. One-Derful Life is my way of describing how it feels when you make peace with being single. You're not happy because you're single, but you're happy while you're single. For me, I've always wanted to be married and have a family, but I'm over 40 and I've never been married. I don't have any children, and that's always really been a source of sadness for me. And I hope it changes at some point, but I said, you know what? This may not change, and I just want to be happy, and I just want to have some peace in my life, even if I stay single. And that's what One-Derful Life is about. It's not about getting you to a place where you say, well, I don't need a man, I don't want a relationship, because that's not where I am. I know women who feel that way, and sometimes I'm kind of jealous. I wish I did feel that way, but I don't. I would prefer to be in a relationship and for that relationship to be a marriage, but that hasn't happened for me, and I've learned how to be peaceful and happy while I'm single, and that is the One-Derful Life, and so that's what we're here for. One of the questions that I've struggled with, and I think a lot of women do, is a feeling or a question of what's wrong with me, or maybe I'm just not good enough for a relationship. And I've really struggled with that, is, what's wrong with me? Maybe I'm not enough. Maybe I'm not good enough to have a relationship. And I got to the point where I realized I'm never going to be good enough for a relationship. Now, don't panic. I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So let's take a look at why you're really never going to be good enough for a relationship. So I wrote a blog on this in case you kind of need to mull this over a little bit more. You can go to wonderfullife.com. You can read the blog. We've got a lot of other resources there for you to take a look at. And this is really a community. It's a tribe. And, hopefully, if you don't want to be single, hopefully you won't be with us for that long. We'll get you happy and peaceful, and you'll move on and find that relationship that you want. But if not, you're not alone, and we're here to help you. So I spent a lot of years trying to figure out what was wrong with me. Why can't I get a man? Why can't I keep a man? How come I can't get married? How come this isn't working for me? And I started more than one relationship with a therapist with this directive. We need to figure out what's wrong with me and fix it. And for years, I went to every therapist I could think of. I did every program. I read every book. I took the classes. I did the tapes. I watched the TV shows. Everything I could think of. And I just couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And finally, I realized, wait a minute. I'm going to these PhDs who are really good at what they do, and they can't find anything wrong with me. So if these trained professionals can't figure out what's wrong with me, how is some average guy gonna figure out if something's wrong with me? Like, maybe there's nothing wrong with me. So I'm gonna show you how, when you're stuck in this, well, maybe I'm not good enough and what's wrong with me, that's actually helping to keep you single. So I'm going to show you how I got over this. Number one, that idea that I'm not good enough or maybe there's something wrong with me, just that thought or possibility in your mind is a confidence killer. And that's bad. Now, you don't ever have to say to anybody, well, maybe there's something wrong with me, or I just don't think I'm good enough. You never have to say those words because people will pick up on it. They're going to get the vibe. Now, before you say, oh no, she's one of these woo-woo people, listen, we pick up on this stuff all the time. You've walked into a room before and you've heard that phrase, you could cut the tension with a knife. You've done that. You've walked into a room and nobody says anything and you're like, what's going on in here? Or your mom or your best friend calls you and all they do is say hi and you're like, what's wrong? Because you pick up on it. Well, what people will pick up on is they might say, I don't know what it is about her, but she just seems like really critical or judgmental, or she's really uptight. And they're going to interpret that as she seems like an uptight, judgmental, critical person, probably towards me. But the truth is, you're probably critical and uptight and judgmental mostly about yourself because you're trying to pick apart what is wrong with you. I got that feedback from a lot of people over the years, which is you just seem very uptight and tightly wound and, you know, like you would just, you know, you're just very like things have to be a certain way. And they were right. And it wasn't that I so much directed that at other people. It was that I felt like, well, I must be single because I'm not good enough. So I need to be better about, you know, I need to look better. I need to act better. I need to do better. Everything needs to be better in order for me to have a relationship. And that came across as being really uptight. Now that's a problem because most men don't want an uptight, judgmental, critical woman. Go ask any man you know if he's looking for a woman who's going to be critical, uptight, and judgmental. Let me tell you, 0 are going to tell you that's what they want. So just being in that frame of mind of what's wrong with me and maybe I'm not good enough and maybe I need to be better, that right there is unattractive, meaning it's like it's not going to attract. It's going to push away the very thing you want. And that, by the way, is going to reinforce. See, I did this for years. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? I'm not good enough. I need to be better. Nobody's going to love me. That pushed people away, which then reinforced to me, see, I'm right. I can't even get a man to ask me out. I'm that horrible. See what I'm talking about? And then it was just this terrible cycle. And so the very thought that there must be something wrong with me, you have got to eliminate that. The problem when you think that there's something wrong with you is that you don't have confidence then. Here's the thing, men love confidence. You read any survey, any poll of men, I don't care if it's scientific or casual, it doesn't matter. And you ask a man, what do they find sexy in a woman? Most of them will mention confidence. Now, what does confidence look like? One year I was dating somebody and I was with him at his sister's house. And it was in the summertime and they had some friends come over and they did like a homemade slip and slide in the backyard where they put out a big plastic tarp and then they had the sprinklers and the hose going and the kids were just, there was like a little hill and the kids were just screaming and sliding down, and I didn't want to put my bathing suit on because I felt insecure about how I would look in my bathing suit. And all these people were there, and my boyfriend's sister, she was married and had 2 kids. She put on her bathing suit, and let me tell you, she was running around with the kids, and they were, she was the only adult running around with them, and they loved her, and they're all just, she was like a kid running around and screaming. And listen, she had 2 children, and she did not have a perfect body. So I saw her in her bathing suit, and she was running around and having so much fun. It was like nobody else was there, just her and the kids. And she was, in my mind, it was like she was the sexiest woman I'd ever seen, really and truly. And her husband was watching her, and you could tell he just was so in love with her. And listen, it wasn't because she was some kind of a pageant girl or a beauty queen or a model, nothing like that. And as I watched her running around and having fun, she was so confident. She didn't care how she looked in her bathing suit. She just was having a good time. And I'm gonna tell you what, that was sexy. I got it right then. So it's not about you have to look right, you have to be perfect, and you've got to be thin. It's that confidence. That's the secret sauce, confidence. And when you're questioning, what's wrong with me? I need to be better. You're not confident. It's a game killer right there. And here's why confidence is important. When you're confident, then a man knows he made the right choice with you. Okay, it actually gives him confidence when you're confident, because he knows, like, hey, I picked the right girl. Look at her, she's got it together. And he knows he made a good choice with you, because you're not like, do you love me? Do you like me? Do I look okay? Do you think I'm fat? When you're telling him, like, yeah, and he says, babe, you look good, and you're like, thank you. He knows, he's like, she's great. I promise you. You don't think I'm telling you the truth. You go ask any man you know. Confidence. Men don't want perfection. I think that's a story that we as women have created. But listen, men don't want a woman whose everything is going to be perfect and spotless and 100% all the time. That's not real. Maybe, I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you've walked into somebody's home and it's like perfect and it's spotless. And at first you're like, wow, this is really great. And then you're afraid to do anything. It's like you're afraid to sit down. You're afraid to spill anything. You're afraid to mess up the pillows because it's so perfect. It's not lived in. Most men, yeah, do they want domestic support? Yeah. Do they want a clean house? Of course. But listen, they'd rather come home and you're happy and in a good mood than everything is spotless. Most men prefer a real person, a real woman. And so when you're trying so hard to just be perfect and be better and be good enough all the time, that really reads to people as fake. And they can't always put their finger on it, but they're like, you're not being yourself. And so being okay with who you are. Now look, I think it's great to always want to improve. I think we always have things in our life that we are hoping to become better at, and that is a good thing. But if you're beating yourself up like, well, maybe once I lose 10 pounds, then I'll start dating. Or, well, if I could just grow my hair out, then I can find a boyfriend. No, you're good enough right now. And that's finally the point that I had to get to where I said, you know what? This is what we're working with. And I'm at an age where this is it. This is how I look. I might gain 5 pounds, I might lose 5 pounds, but pretty much this is what we're dealing with physically. And this is who I am. And I can continue to tweak and make little improvements here and there, but ultimately, this is what we're dealing with here. So stop wondering when you're going to be good enough for a relationship, because you're never going to be good enough. You are good enough right now. And when you will just relax on that laundry list of things that you think that if you could only change or improve, then you would deserve a relationship. The very fact that you have that list is what is keeping away the thing that you want. So take that list and throw it away and start getting confident. And just remember the story I told you of my boyfriend's sister. And next time you're out, look for these women and you're going to see them. Another friend of mine, we have a professional relationship, and I've worked with her on and off for many years. And I remember one day looking at her across from her desk, and she's heavier and she's older than I am. And listen, she, she spends a lot of time in the sun, so she had crow's feet and wrinkles and extra pounds, and she wears her hair short, which a lot of people would tell you, if you're looking for a man, you need to grow your hair out. And she was talking, and I just remember sitting there thinking, wow, she is so sexy and cool. Like, I remember thinking, I hope I'm like that when I'm her age, because she's confident. And she was in her zone, like she's really good at what she does professionally. And she got married for the first time later in life. I want to say she was in her mid to late 40s the first time she got married. And she's still married to this man today. And every time I see her, listen, physically, you would not look at her and think, well, of course she's got a man. Okay, see, that's an excuse we make. We look at another woman physically and go, well, yeah, if I look like her, I'd get a man too. It's not about looks all the time. This woman is so confident and just real, and she's just herself, and that is what is sexy. I promise you, you start paying attention, and you're going to see these women. That's what you want. That's what men find attractive. But I'd really love to hear from you. This isn't a monologue. This is a dialogue. And so I'd really love for you to put in the comments, what are some things that maybe you struggle with if you feel like you're not good enough, or even if you've just observed that with some of your girlfriends. I'd love to hear from you about your thoughts on being good enough or what's wrong with you. And of course, I'd love to hear anything that you struggle with that maybe you'd like to hear more about, or that you would like to read about on our Wonderful Life website. You can always connect with us at wonderfullife.com. And join us next week on Wonderful Life, where, have you ever been told, well, maybe you're just too picky? We're going to talk about being too picky next time on Wonderful Life.